The film that you are about to see has been produced by the Haverhill Film Group to capture some living memories of Haverhill history. We were extremely fortunate in finding 8 people who were born in Haverhill between 1916 and 1925 and who were not only prepared to record their memories but did it so well as to allow us to make this film, which gives a fascinating insight into Haverhill between the 2 great wars. This was a Haverhill that is almost impossible to relate to in the Haverhill of today. With a population of only 3,000 compared with over 20,000 today, and with no council or private housing estates, virtually no road transport, no running water, electricity, televisions, or supermarkets, or any of the everyday things which are taken for granted these days. It was certainly a lifestyle that which most of us cannot begin to imagine today. It has been impossible to condense everything that was said into a film of manageable proportions, and so we apologise in advance for leaving out so much fascinating material.
Like every other school child in Haverhill, I went to the council school. The entrance was in Ratting Road. There's a porch in Ratting Road next to where the headmaster lived, and that's where all the juniors went. Then as you grow in age, there was a porch under the clock tower, and then the middle age group would go to school through the clock tower entrance. And as you became older, the entrance to the school was near where the corn exchange is. It was overcrowded, but nonetheless, I suppose in a way quite enjoyable.
We were too young to have paper, and we used these slates. Apart from that, I can't remember much about the infant school, but I do remember the elementary school, which is when you went up after you come from the infants to the elementary school. It was a council school, and I think the term council school came because previous to that it had been a local government education board school or church schools. But then the county councils took over the education of people, and it became known as the council schools.
When I was 11, I was fortunate enough to, having passed the exam, be accepted for the secondary school, which quite honestly was a total culture shock, because from the crowded school of children, I enter a school where the roll is less than 100 pupils. There are 5 teachers, all who wear gowns. The boys have to wear uniforms, blazers, ties, caps when they're out, have to have satchels, have to provide their own pencil boxes and sports gear. The girls had their own gym slips and white tops. And of course, as an 11-year-old, 12-year-old, the astounding thing was that I went to a school where I suddenly was in with boys wearing long trousers and girls who looked like young ladies. And that's where the culture shock came in. The downside being you've got a hell of a lot of homework.
I didn't like school, and sometimes I wouldn't go. I made my father carry me. We lived quite near. We lived almost I could throw a stone to the Cankle school. And it's still the same as it was when I went, just the same. It looks the same anyway, I don't know about inside.
Eventually went into the senior school with Archie Smith and Miss Callow and Miss Gowers. Quite strict really. And ended up with Mr Underwood, Miss Castle, which was great fun and I loved it.
The teachers, they weren't trained teachers. They were all people that actually did other jobs. I had one teacher, was a Mr Archie Smith, lived in Haverhill. Now he was what I call an all-rounder. He could do so many. He worked as a reporter for the Haverhill Echo. He could attend a cricket match. He could umpire it. Football he could umpire. He, in his for any lad that was interested enough, he taught shorthand a while after school. He would even take the music lessons. And he was very, very good at, well, he imparted a lot of general knowledge to us, which I don't think teachers do that today. I've got at home a little black book, a little grey lined book. And he did see fit to teach us. He said, I'm going to teach you as a class Latin roots. And he said, if you can learn these off, get them in your memory, you will very seldom be stuck for a word, because so much of our language we include the Latin. I mean, it's a mix-up of all German and everything. But I've got the little book there, and that has been a lot of use to me.
The school wasn't too bad, it was pretty easy. There was no like upper grades or stuff. It was just reading, writing, reading, gardening, and just after only at the latter part of school, they started to bring in algebra. I could never understand that, so I didn't take to that much.
Mr. Phillips I remember most of all, because he was the person that actually set me on the path to go into the Air Force. He gave me extra training to pass the entrance exam, and he made such a good job of it that I came 7th in the whole country in this exam.
No one left that school who couldn't read, write, do simple maths, sign his name, and know all the bits and pieces about where he lived, etc., etc., etc. It seems so different now to what it was. We learned our tables, something unheard of now, parrot fashion. We used to sit there, the whole class, for about half an hour, practically every day, going through your times. Twice 1 is 2, twice 2 is 4. And doing it that way, you've got up to 12 times table. And even today, I find you find that it's still useful for you. And I think it was quite an accomplishment. Quite an accomplishment.
And the Recreation Road was the boundary of Haverhill, but beyond which were the fields and Old Clements Lane, of which there were a few houses leading to the isolation hospital. The isolation hospital is long since gone, but we have memories, those of us who lived in the Recreation Road have memories of the old ambulance wagon being drawn up the hill by horses and taking people who had infectious diseases into the isolation hospital. Later on, of course, Recreation Road was expanded, but in those days, in the 20s, Recreation Road was a boundary, was more or less on the outskirts of Haverhill. Now, the main road from in Haverhill ran to Cambridge, Colchester, Cambridge into traffic, from Cambridge to Colchester, went right through the Queen Street and High Street of Haverhill. So when you came in from Cambridge, I suppose the first building you saw was Baldock's Garage. Then you proceeded along Withersfield Road, you came by the gasworks. Opposite the gasworks, of course, is the cemetery which is still there. And then you proceeded directly into Queen Street, because there was no relief road, there was you had to come right through the town, and traffic had to come, what traffic there was, had to come completely through the town. Now, Queen Street led into High Street, and then from High Street you exited the town down Hamlet Road, and there were a few houses down Hamlet Road. And by the time you got to where we call Sturmer Arches, of course, that was the end of Haverhill.
Now, I was born in a road, an odd name, the Pikle. That's just on the corner where the Rose and Crown Hotel stands, sort of more or less in the centre of the town. The Pikle, it was strange because it was a road, the part where I lived divided again to a section of 4 houses where I lived, and that was called Boyton Terrace. And at that time it ended somewhere down near where the sports centre now is. In other words, you couldn't get any further because the road, you were walking through fields and coming out near the stern arches, where you then met up with the main road.
For the first 26 years of my life, I lived in Recreation Road. They were quite substantial houses, brick built. There was sort of, what, if I may use the old-fashioned term, there was a front room, a middle room, and a kitchen. There was a sort of cupboard under the stairs, and there was a pantry beyond the kitchen, and the outside toilet. The houses were gaslit. I think it was the 30s when the electricity came to Haverhill, I believe, something like that. And of course, it wasn't the brightest of lights, you know, and fiddling around with gas mantles was a nightmare. You broke more than you ever fitted. You know, they were a real nightmare.
The house I lived in, 2 big rooms downstairs, a kitchen, and what was called a pantry, and an outside toilet. The bedrooms were 2 largish bedrooms and a small one. The heating was done by a range in the middle room with a fire and an oven attached to us, which was all heated by coal. And I used to like it when coming home from school, for example, in the winter time, Mum had put a large potato under the fire, so I always had a hot potato when I came home. Mondays was always wash day, because that was when Dad would light the copper fire to provide hot water. The only tap in the house was a cold water tap over the sink. Bath times was, of course, the big tin bath that was hung in the shed where the mangle was kept. And so it was a ceremony on the copper being lit to provide the water to have a bath in the kitchen or the scullery. The front room, the main room, was always only used at Christmas time and for funerals. Christmas time, I always remember Dad would light the fire in the front room, and 9 times out of 10 smoke would come billowing out into the room instead of going up the chimney. But that was about the only time. Christmas Day and Boxing Day, and then it was shut up again for the rest of the year till next Christmas, unless somebody died in the house where the body was laid in the front room.
You had a copper in the bathroom, which was a brick-built thing in the corner with a large bowl which held God knows how many gallons of water. It had a fire underneath, and you'd light this fire to heat the water in the copper, and then when the water boiled, you took the water out of the copper in a bucket and put it in the bath, and you had a bath. And as there was only one lot of hot water, sometimes 3 people used the same bath water, but there we are. That's what you did in those days.
Well, we all bathed in the same water. That was an accepted thing. I often look back and I think we were never any the worse of it.
We had a well. There was a well in the front garden. Every water you had to keep winding it up, let them down at the bottom get the water.
Yeah.
That was all right in the winter time because there was always water in there. But in the summer that was nice to run dry. So we used to have to go walk down the road, down to just where the old railway bridge is in Bumster Road. There's a house there. They had water laid on. And I came here when I was 10 months old. And she got a little house up at Bumster Road on the corner where Mansell's is now. There used to be a little cottage there, 2 bedrooms. Just a kitchen and a front room. There was 8 of us and 2 parents. And then we got to 1933, they gave us a 4-bedroom house.
There's one thing I do that's stick in my memory. The rent for my grandmother's cottage was 1 6 halfpenny a week.
Both sides of the street, in Queen Street and High Street, were filled with old Victorian houses and family-owned shops. Unfortunately, they're all gone now. The Victorian houses and buildings were all demolished in the 60s in the name of progress, which was a tragedy, I think, anyway. And there wasn't a thing that you couldn't get in Haverhill. You didn't have to go out of town to buy anything. Everything was catered for, from ironmongery to saddle making. We even had a blacksmith's in the high street where they used to shoe horses. You could get all your clothing there. You could get tailor-made suits at the Co-op, which were made at Gerting's factory. There was everything that you needed, and if you wanted one 6-inch nail, you could buy a 6-inch nail from the ironmongers. You didn't have to buy a pack of 12 all packed in plastic boxes and things like that. Screws and nails, everything was sold by weight, not by numbers. If you wanted a half a pound of nails, you went down to the ironmongers, and he had a list of drawers and boxes behind him, which he'd get a half a pound of nails out, put them in a paper bag and weigh them, and that's how you took your stuff out. Nothing plastic at all.
I really, really think there's only 3 shops left in the town that were there when I was young. That is Ellis's the baker's, Chapman's the cycle shop, and Griffith Jones the jeweller. The rest have all gone. And I'm not decrying Haverhill, because obviously it's right for young people, but it's nothing as nice as it was. You go up the street now and I'm hard pushed to see anybody that I can say hello to. But then, you knew everybody.
We had a blacksmith shop in the high street behind Copsy's fish shop. Now that would be opposite where Jubilee Walk is now, I think. And people used to bring their horses into Haverhill to have them shod. Then they'd go down to see Mr. Baines, who was a saddle maker in the Queen Street, and he would make up all leather harnesses for them, new saddles if they were required. They also made iron fences, iron chairs. Everything that a blacksmith could make was made in the high street in Haverhill. The Co-op, which was the biggest store in town, they used to deliver most of the shops used to deliver free of charge, all had errand boys. And the Co-op used to deliver. What you did in the morning is you went to work, you had a book, and you write down your grocery order in the book. And the front door of the Co-op had an iron gate in front of it, and you just used to walk past and throw your book over the gate into the doorway of the Co-op. And they used to open the shop at 8, collect up all these books and take them through to the order room, which was out the back. They'd make up your order in a box, and when you went home at dinner time, your order would be in your house. Nothing was wrapped, of course. I mean, they used to make these fantastic cones of paper to put sugar and tea and everything. You can still see them in there, standing in now in their long white aprons, folding these things up to make a sort of a cone. And they'd shovel the broken biscuits or whatever you were buying in these cones, fold the top in and put it in the box, and they were all delivered to your door.
The Co-op, of course, strikes it was a department store. You could buy almost anything from poultry, feed, to furniture, to clothes, from food, everything. They supplied almost everything. I can remember, particularly at Christmas time, the first Monday in December, in Paul's, the ironmongers, always put on a display of toys, and we used to rush out of the school to go up there to see what toys Mr. Paul had got in his window, especially if they were Hornby trains, which none of us could possibly afford to buy, or parents could afford to buy. But that was a thrilling thing to see what sort of toys were about in the shops in Haverhill. The other things I remember about shops in the Queen Street, of course, was buying packets of Bolton biscuits and crisps from a shop for about a penny. And when people remember, there were 240 pence in a pound in those days, and a penny was a lot of money. And you could also go to Ellis's and get cakes, stale cakes, for a penny, or a penny Nelson. We called Nelsons. They were made from the old cakes made up to something and all mashed together, something like a Christmas pudding, but put between 2 pieces of pastry. And I thought they were excellent, all for a penny.
People couldn't afford to go to the doctors in those days if they were ill. They either had to treat themselves or they went down to see Doc Griggs, who had a wonderful cough mixture called the Griggs Lightning Cough Cure, which he made up himself. He never would tell anybody the recipe for the mixture, and when he died, the secret died with him. People used to say if they got a cough, you go on down to Queen Street and see Doc Riggs, he'll fix you up with a bottle of jollop. They used to call medicine jollop in those days, and they used to charge 6p a time for this cough mixture, which did really work. It was really wonderful stuff.
Out of school, of course, living in Recreation Road, I think we were particularly lucky because right in the front of our houses was a recreation ground, which was a beautiful play area, safe play area. We played many pretend games. Of course, we played football and cricket and things like that. There was a basic form of play where there was a sand pit and a maypole and a seesaw. In the summertime, when the grass was cut with a horse-drawn mower, we built grass houses. At the back of the houses, of course, was all fields, cornfields and meadows. And again, we took advantage of that, and very often went into the meadows to play various games. Cowboy Indians, of course, so we'd fly our kites, we'd make our own kites.
They used to cut that grass twice a year. Word would go round, hay's cut, hay's cut, hay's cut. We'd all go bartering, tearing up there, and we'd make houses, you see, and take picnics up in these houses till they used to leave it there for a time for us to play with. And we'd have such fights because you'd turn it back and somebody pinched your grass that you'd heaped up. To pass the time we had, you know, my father used to take us up the woods. Well, all those lovely walks are gone as far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't know. We'd go along the meadows, trees, lovely trees, both sides. The horses would come down after the day's work and roll as if they were happy to be rolling in the grass.
We could go anywhere, we could be out all day because my relations kept Place Farm, which is now where Place Court is, and I'd go off on the cart with my bag of sandwiches and my lemonade all day and come back with the horses at night. And Mum never worried about me. I can't see anybody letting their child go out all day now, but there used to be a crowd of us, you know.
There'd be time when we would go down to a local field with a piece of wood, perhaps, or a crudely made bat to play ball. Then, of course, marbles. Now, there are places in the town that spaces in between two houses that sort of didn't belong to anybody. And in those, what happened, there was a time when you'd walk up there, and this happened in a place, Burton End, which is a road out of Haverhill, where you'd go up and see lots of almost like a bird's nest created in the mud, where you used to flip your marbles into. The idea being you'd have to flip them to get them in there. There was the ordinary marble that would have been made out of almost like brick, stone. Then they developed glass, what they call glass alleys. Now they were ones with lovely little colours in them. I think normally you would have to buy those, but they were quite loved by all of us. I've still got one or two at home.
John Underwood had a penny farthing bike, and he used to ride it round the school playground because his father was the headmaster there. I remember trying to ride this penny farthing. I came off 3 times. I never did manage it properly. I did get a hang of it after a fashion, but never did. I could never ride it as well as what John Underwood did. And I think that penny farthing bike is the same one that appeared over Chapman's front of the shop. And I think, I'm not sure, but I think that was the same penny farthing. And of course, we used to go one day a week to the swimming pool, didn't we? Often the water was cold, but there weren't many people that didn't take the opportunity to go for a swim. But it was open air pool, and
Sure.
even in the summer, the water wasn't all that. You know, you're talking in terms of about 62, 64. We used to make our own sports and activities. We didn't have the facilities that they have today, but I think we made more of our time than what they do today.
My mother was determined that I wasn't going into the factory. She had 3 sisters and they all worked in Gertines in the machine. making clothes, but my mother was in the hair factory, in the textile, drawing threads, and because she was the only one that couldn't sew, and I can't sew, it's funny, but she was determined that I wasn't going there, and I didn't want to go into a shop. Anyway, she said, she came home, I've got you a job, you're going to Gertines in the booking room, which was wonderful, because it was her uncle that was sort of in charge of the booking room, and two of his daughters worked there, and I knew all the other girls in there. So I've always got very happy memories of the Gertine family. They were always very good to us.
I got with a chap who was retiring in the packer shop, and he used to dye all the different colours on the mats, dye the borders and that. And I started to learn with him, and then I took on to dyeing, because we used to make a lot of names in batik with the names in, such as all the big hotels in London. We made the thousands for all them. Oh, the Savoy Hotel, the Intercontinental, yeah. Used to make all their leather weight. I've been up there many a time.
I couldn't get a job I wanted. Because the co-op, you had to be a red hot labour to get in there. That's what I thought. I don't know if I'm right. So I went to the laundry, got a job there. And I remember standing in that, there was a cupboard, perhaps as big as this room, was all rods. You used to have to hang blankets over them all to dry. And I used to stand in there crying because that was hot and a bit of blanket, and I used to feel sorry for myself. And I was. I earned 7 and 6 a week.
I suppose you've heard about the gala and the torchlight processions on Bank Holiday Monday, when they used to light the tar balls, and we all used to dance down straight behind the co-op band with the men with their tar balls, and they used to take them down as far as the Rose and Crown and put them out. But there was great hilarity there. After a day of racing and cycle racing and running, it used to be a really exciting time. My relations used to come down from London, especially to go to the gala.
There was also always a centre attraction, and I can remember one was a long pole. I don't know how high it was, it looked as though it went right up to the clouds, but it used to sway, and it had a platform on the top, and this mad guy used to climb this pole and do all sorts of acrobatics on this table stand at the top, standing on his head, standing on one leg while the pole swayed from side to side. And he used to finish by reaching in his pocket and getting out a bottle of some sort of flammable liquid, which he poured all over himself. He set fire to himself, and he'd leap off the top of this platform into a tank about 6 foot deep of water at the bottom of the pole. How he never broke his neck, I'll never know. All you saw was this blazing man coming through the air and landing with a big splash in this tank, and then getting out and taking his bows and walking on.
Then you'd have the procession, and they'd light up all the torches and the band. I don't know whether the co-op band or the town band. I don't really, but anyway, that would be in front, and we'd all follow it, going from side to side, all down the street. That was a night to remember, really.
Having seen the memories of Haverhill between the wars, we wonder, where now for Haverhill? Who knows? The film group thanked those people who have been willing to participate with us on this project, and must also thank the people and organisations who have supported us and made it possible to record a fascinating piece of Haverhill history.